Greetings, podcast listeners. Thank you for tuning into the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast again today. Jordan River here. It's time to finish our Blue Zone exploration with this episode. I opened the last part of the series a little bit differently, so I decided to keep that trend up. If you haven't heard part 1 of our Blue Zone exploration, I strongly suggest you go back and check that out for context. But without further ado, let's pick up right where we left off, exploring the 5 blue zones around the world where people maintain exceptional longevity. Last we left, we had covered 2 of the 5 blue zones in depth, Sardinia in Italy and Nicoya in Greece. But the next locale we're about to visit may be the most unique one on the entire list. And it's the only blue zone that's found in North America, surprisingly, in the United States. Loma Linda, California. Okay, so California, maybe that's a little less surprising, but Loma Linda is not your average California town. Loma Linda, a little city in San Bernardino County, just east of Los Angeles, is or was largely populated by citizens that belonged to the lesser-known religious Christian subsect called Seventh-day Adventists. These Adventists live as much as a decade longer than the average U.S. citizen. Now, what do these Californians' religions have to do with their longevity? Well, yes, as with all of the blue zones, Seventh-day Adventists put a large emphasis on things like community, family, quality time, spiritual time, and all of these common themes. But it actually goes much deeper than that when it comes to the Seventh-day Adventists' health. Practicing Seventh-day Adventists follow a much more strict lifestyle than your average American Christian. This religion has very unique restrictions on not only things like drinking and smoking and even legal drug use, but also diet. Health is central to their faith. The Seventh-day Adventist diet is largely plant-based. No surprise there. It would be underselling them to say that they're just vegetarian. They have more complex restrictions than that. But basically, it boils down to a plant-based, whole food diet, free of toxins, low in meat, and this is an interesting point I read, particularly high in nuts. You'll remember all the way back to Harvard medical guest Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, including nuts as one of his big 5 methods to increase longevity. I thought that was a very interesting side note about the Adventists. Now, coffee, interestingly enough, is accepted in many Seventh-day Adventist communities. I'm sure they drink a lot of decaf, because caffeine is discouraged in Seventh-day Adventist communities, but a ton of decaf is going around, and I personally have met practicing Seventh-day Adventists who do drink coffee, and we're going to come back to that later on in this episode. But I believe the largest longevity lessons that we can take away from the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California, is to focus more on treating our bodies as temples. Focus more on not tainting our bodies. And then maybe we should each consider installing health as a core pillar of our spirituality. Next, we head south. We could actually travel by car if we wanted, all the way down through Mexico into Central America, where we can find Nicoya, a peninsular section of western Costa Rica. A beautiful, scenic paradise, and also the next blue zone on our list. Interestingly enough, Costa Rica has a very sustainable economy, and they actually have a very high-quality, comprehensive healthcare system in Nicoya and Costa Rica as a whole. And researchers have pointed out that this actually does aid them in their blue zone status. I thought that was fascinating. They share a lot of the same themes of diet, high in plants, low in sugar. However, their little blue zone diet twist is that Nicoyan meals often contain highly fortified local maize and also fortified beans, which provide tremendous amounts of healthy nutrients and aid them in their long lifespan. The water in Nicoya also plays a role into their health. The water in Nicoya is extremely hard, And not with contaminants like you might think, but with natural calcium. Researchers have found that the Nicoyan hard water provides essential minerals to the people every single day. The Nicoyan sun provides plenty of vitamin D, and the beautiful beaches provide the rest and relaxation needed for a long and happy life. And the members of the local culture provide themselves with a reason to get up every single morning. Known as a plan de vida, every good Nicoyan has a reason to live. And it has a massive impact on longevity, specifically late in life health, research shows. And let's not forget about the extremely rich coffee history in Costa Rica. The medicinal brew being produced all over Costa Rica, and of course, being the popular beverage of choice among the locals. There are a total of 8 coffee-producing regions within the tiny little country of Costa Rica. Many of them are practicing regenerative agriculture down there as well. Caring for the land is critical in the Costa Rican coffee culture. In fact, the Costa Ricans take their coffee so seriously, it's actually illegal for Costa Rican farmers to grow anything but Arabica beans. Of course, the Arabica bean being considered the more delicious, more desirable breed of coffee. And Costa Ricans don't want any coffee drinker from around the world tasting a cup of Robusta and associating that with Costa Rica. Imagine taking your coffee so seriously that you literally illegalize low-quality beans. We could all take a page out of the Nicoyan's book, though. Take your coffee seriously. Take your plan de vida, or reason for living, seriously. But make sure to set aside time to relax and enjoy some time on the sunny beach as well. Now, our final destination should not come as a surprise to anyone who's read up on longevity. The final blue zone on our list takes us all the way to the land of the rising sun, Japan. Specifically, a small island located in an island chain southwest of the mainland. And this island is named Okinawa. Okinawa is legendary for its citizens' longevity status. And to be honest, Japan as a whole ages very well nationally. In fact, for many, many years, they ranked as the second longest living nation in the entire world. But Okinawans specifically live even longer than the average Japanese citizen, and their lifestyle differences give us major clues as to why. They have slightly different diets than the mainland Japanese citizens do. They eat less sugar, less processed foods, and less meat than the mainlanders, and they also eat meals extremely high in vegetables. Also, instead of rice, which is common in Japan, obviously, with every meal, the starch of choice on Okinawa is actually a delicious local version of the sweet potato. And this specific sweet potato is a special cultivar that doesn't carry with it the glucose spike load that most starchy side dishes do. This is supposedly a huge contributor to their longevity. Another huge factor in Okinawan life, similar to the Nicoyan's plan de vida, the concept known as ikigai is near and dear to every Okinawan. Ikigai probably deserves its entire own episode exploration, but basically it's a singular life purpose and mission which combines your passions, talents, and values into one core principle. It's your reason for getting up in the morning, and the Okinawans revolve around their individual ikigai. It's definitely something you can look up. I highly recommend it. Okinawan women are very familiar with the term moai, the Japanese word for a group of lifelong supportive friends. Again, this culture heavily emphasizing time spent with loved ones and friends. Now, this next practice is maybe my favorite out of all the ones I've read. Okinawans practice the art of Tai Chi daily, together, outside in nature. This practice combines all the aspects of fresh air and sunshine, exercise, community, and spiritual meditation into one easy daily practice. Personally, I think this may be one of the most unique and impactful practices that the Okinawans have going for them. But there's one more interesting fact about Okinawa that you won't find in a lot of these Blue Zone articles online. As I said before, they do many things differently than your average Japanese mainland dweller. Less grains, less sugars, like I said, more vegetables. But there's one other key difference I saved for the finale here. You see, Okinawa is the only place in Japan where the locals drink more coffee than they do green tea. That's right. The classic image of the incredible artistic Japanese green tea ceremonies, leave that display on the mainland, because in Okinawa, they drink coffee. Can you believe it? I was stunned when I found this out. I couldn't find an explanation as to why the Okinawans specifically gravitated towards coffee, but I've seen multiple sources that show that Okinawans prefer Java over the classic Japanese beverage, green tea. Could this be the biggest key that separates the Okinawans from the already extremely long lifespan Japanese in their longevity? It is quite possible. It is quite possible. I thought that was an absolute eye-opener when I read that. So let's just run down the common threads that we've seen in all of these blue zones that we've taken so much time to deeply explore here. All of the people that live in these blue zones consume a diet that is wholesome, low in sugars, low in grains, high in vegetables, and whole foods. They have a connection with nature. They're fishing for their food, they're gardening, they're growing their own food. They spend time in the sun. There's a constant low-grade activity going on, balanced with relaxation, humor, and rest. Not too much exertion or stress, just a nice, constant activity. They emphasize time spent with friends and family, socializing and laughing. They emphasize time spent in spiritual practice. And all of these places, even the Seventh-day Adventist communities, they all drink coffee. Every single one of them. And if you look at all the studies of coffee and its effects on longevity, the years that it can add to your life just by drinking more of it and drinking high quality, I'll say it again. There is no simpler, easier way to extend your life and change the direction, possibly, of your disease development than to simply switch to a high-quality organic coffee and drink more of it. And if you're trying to live like the people in Okinawa or any of the other blue zones, guess what? You'd better reach for two things for your beverage of choice. Lots and lots of clean, fresh water and a lot of delicious hot coffee. I hope you enjoyed this Blue Zone exploration, this two-parter. I really enjoyed putting together this episode, and I hope you learned something. I know you did. As I said at the end of the last episode, Dr. Coffee's voice is ringing in my head. We are talking about high-quality coffee here, and on the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast, of course, we are partnered with Purity Coffee, puritycoffee.com. Use code CHS Podcast for 20% off and free shipping one time. Go ahead and get the best. You want to drink the most medicinal coffee you can find, and Purity is what you need. Thank you all so much for staying subscribed and for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. This is Jordan River, wishing you all an extraordinary day. We'll see you next time on the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. Bye-bye.